Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another lecture on supply chain modeling. We are going to start module 3, that is demand forecasting. And in part 1, we will discuss some basics, an introduction to demand forecasting and different measures of forecast error or forecast performance. In the part 2, we will discuss qualitative methods of forecasting. And in lecture 3-3, we will discuss some quantitative methods of demand forecasting. So learning objectives for lecture 3-1 are to differentiate between independent demand and dependent demand, understand general characteristics of demand forecasts, use 4 measures of forecast accuracy. They are mean absolute deviation, mean squared error, mean absolute percent error, and tracking signal. So demand forecasting is the method of forecasting the demand for a particular good, component, or service. So the word forecasting is a general word. So there is some financial forecasting and forecasting some other aspects related to the business. So our topic is related to forecasting the demand for a specific product or component or service. There are two types of demand, independent demand and dependent demand. So the demand of an item that is unrelated to the demand of other items is independent demand. And demand of finished goods is an example of independent demand. So with respect to this course, you should keep in mind that demand of finished goods is just one example of independent demand, because in one of the modules, we will also discuss how we can actually manage the demand of independent items other than the finished goods. The dependent demand is directly related to or derived from the bill of material for other items. So dependent demand is derived from the bill of material of items with independent demand. So forecasting, this topic is related to forecasting the independent demand, generally for finished goods. But I repeat that there are some other types of independent demand as well. And dependent demand can be managed in different ways. One of the techniques is MRP, Material Requirements Planning, that we will also discuss in some detail in our module on production planning. So again, here we are discussing independent and dependent demand. So if we have a finished product, its demand is independent demand, and demand of the components and sub-assemblies is dependent demand. So in order to make one A, we need two C's, and in order to make one C, we need one D, and in order to make one B, we need two D's, and for one B, we need one E. So the demand for B, C, D, and E depends upon the demand of A, and that is to be forecasted. There are 4 important characteristics, or you can say indicators of the behavior of the demand data. One is the random movement or random fluctuation. So for any type of product, demand is never constant. It is never the same from period to period. So there are random variations in the demand. So that is true for almost every product that is manufactured. Second, very important, you can say the property of demand is seasonality or seasonal pattern. So the demand of the products is repeating a specific pattern after a certain period of time. So it could be a literal seasons, like some products have high demand in summer than in winter. It could be a certain, say, month of the year, or it could be a certain day in the month or week as well. And that is a very important pattern of demand. The third is the trend. So trend in this case, in this figure, is increasing trend. It could be decreasing trend as well. And the fourth is cycle. So cycle looks similar to seasonal pattern, but generally the maximum time horizon for a season is a year. So a season repeats at least once in a year. It could be more than one, but it can be more than once in a year as well. But one cycle spans for more than 1 year. Cycle itself is for more than 1 year. So our focus in this course will be on these three patterns: random variation, seasonality, and trend. This cyclic pattern is more of concern for economists and policymakers. And you can also notice that we can actually practically have more than one types of patterns in one type of data. For example, in this graph, we are having trends. Overall demand is increasing, but the demand is seasonal as well. So maybe it's a new product that started its sales somewhere over here, but by nature it's a seasonal product. So with the passage of time, because of marketing, its demand is increasing, but its demand as a whole is higher in a certain season. Let's suppose it's some literal season, summer or winter for it. So it's important to keep these three patterns in mind once we go through this model. So in this figure again, you can see that this is the data for 3-4 years, 3 years data actually. So year 1 is ending here, and year 2 is ending somewhere over here, and then year 3. So you can think what type of characteristics or pattern this data is showing. So of course there is random variation, and you can see generally the demand is low during summer and it is high during winter as a whole in every year. So it is also showing seasonality. And apparently from year to year, there is no such increase in demand. So similar pattern is repeating every year. There are 4 very important characteristics of forecasts. So first is forecasts are almost always wrong. So they are not never 100% correct. So we do need the measure of forecast error. And this measure of forecast error is important with respect to few very important considerations. One is, of course, we can select the best forecasting method under certain conditions based on the values of demand forecast. And even important is we can actually plan according to the forecast error. So if we are under forecasting in some cases, we are over forecasting in some cases. So accordingly, depending upon the situation, we can have relevant planning related decisions. Now that we'll see in some detail as well. Forecasts are more accurate for groups than for single items. So for example, if we are forecasting the demand of air conditioners, or maybe let's take another example. If we are, for example, forecasting the demand for fans, let's suppose we are making different types of fans. So it's better to forecast the demand of fans as a whole instead of forecasting for each different model. So if we are forecasting for different models separately, that will be less accurate, but forecasting for fans as a whole will be, as a group, will be more accurate. Forecasts of near term are more accurate than long-term forecasts. So for example, if you're forecasting for the next week, that is more probable to be having a lower error as compared to a forecast for the next month. And in general, the farther up the supply chain a company is, the greater is the distortion of information it receives. So that is actually the bullwhip effect. So if we are starting the demand from the retailer and moving back to the distributor and manufacturer and back to the supplier. So in this case, the greatest distortion of information will be with the suppliers. So forecasting is the basis of all planning decisions in supply chain. So based on forecasting, we do the production planning and scheduling. We maintain the levels of inventory, the safety stock, and so on. We decide the number of sales force depending upon the forecast, whether we are going to offer promotions or not, whether we are going to introduce a new product or not. Many things depend upon the forecast. So that is a forecast, a very important aspect of supply chains. Plant equipment investment, if we are going to purchase new machines or we are going to outsource, and other related factors that are interrelated depend upon the forecast that we have made. There are two important terms. One is forecast horizon and other is forecast interval. So forecast horizon is the period of time into future for which a forecast is prepared. So for example, we are preparing a forecast for next 1 year, so that will be a forecast horizon. Forecast interval or period is the time unit for which forecasts are prepared. So for example, if we are going to forecast for next 1 year, so that is forecast horizon, but we are making forecasts on monthly basis. So we are making forecasts for 12 months. So interval or period will be a month and horizon will be a year. So what are the data for making a forecast? So the data can come from demand management, say master scheduling. It can come from sales. So sales estimates the levels of inventory at different locations and future needs. Marketing, especially marketing, can give information about any promotions of the products if there are any. Customers relationship management, CRM, can also give you information. So there are actually different CRM software or CRM modules that give information on demand patterns or ordering patterns. So based on that, you can forecast the demand as well. And you can take input from distribution centers and customers as well. So you can see that there are different departments that are actually giving input for the forecast. So that is why it is not an easy job to make an accurate forecast. There are different measures of forecast error. So forecast error by definition is the difference of actual demand and forecast. So that is A minus F. A is the actual demand and F is the forecast. So if we take a forecast error, now this forecast error can be positive or negative. So if we take the absolute value of this, so that is absolute error or absolute deviation. And for certain periods of time, if we take the sum of these absolute errors and divide by n, so that is mean absolute error or mean absolute deviation. Again, if we have forecast error and we square it, so that is squared error. And for certain periods, if we add these squared errors divided by the number of periods, so that is mean squared error. And similarly, if we take forecast error, convert it to absolute error divided by actual demand and multiplied by 100. So that is absolute error multiplied by 100 is absolute percent error. And if we sum these absolute percent errors for certain periods of time and divide by n, so that will be mean absolute percent error. So these are the formulas you can see. So there is a small activity that you are required to solve. I will give you some time. So you are given the actual demand and forecast for a year. and you have to find the error, absolute error, error squared, and absolute percent error. So you can use your calculators to complete this activity. So actual demand minus forecast is error. So this error without regard to negative sign is absolute error, and square of this error is error squared, and this absolute error divided by actual demand multiplied by 100 is absolute percent error. So in this way you can calculate these values for all 12 months. So the average of these values, average of absolute errors, will be mean absolute error or mean absolute deviation, that is 185 in this case. The average of squared errors is mean squared error, 52,590 in this case. And the average of these absolute percent errors is mean absolute percent error. Now we will solve this using Excel as well. But there is a fundamental question, and that is which measure to use when. So these are three different measures. So when we can use, for example, MAD, when MSE, and when MAPE. Another important measure is the tracking signal. So ideally, the sum of these forecast errors should be zero. Or in other words, we can say that the errors should be normally distributed. So if we have consistently having negative errors, negative values of error or positive values of error consistently over certain periods of time, so that shows some bias in our forecast. But there is a fundamental question, and that is actually how much error is a big error. Is there a reference actually to check the bias of our forecast? The answer is the tracking signal. The tracking signal is the ratio of algebraic sum of forecast errors to mean absolute deviation. So up to a certain period, we sum the forecast errors. So these are not absolute errors. These are the simple errors. Actual minus forecast divided by mean absolute deviation. And then we set certain limits. If those limits of tracking signals are crossed, that forecast is biased and it must be readjusted. Now, what is the value of tracking signal? That actually is a warning sign. So it varies, but generally plus minus 3 is taken as a reference. It could be other values as well, but generally it is plus minus 3 or in some cases plus minus 4. It can be up to plus minus 8 depending upon the situation, but mostly we take the value around plus minus 3. So if errors are outside this limit, the forecast should be reviewed. So tracking signal is a measure of forecast bias. So if we are having consistently increasing, I mean consistently positive values of the forecast or negative values of the forecast, plus if the value of tracking signal is beyond these two limits. So both these are warning signs and we must recheck or readjust our forecast. So we will solve the same example in the next segment, this example using Excel, and then we will discuss some progress check questions. Thank you.